Hello everyone, Cameroni here with a build guide for Path of Exile 2. Big surprise here. I've made yet another Ice Nova guide. Bet you all didn't see that coming, huh? Yeah, that's what I thought. Ice Nova got some huge buffs this patch, and it's actually viable as a mapping skill now, and it's very visually appealing, as you can see here. For anyone who's been watching my update videos and giving me ideas on improvement, thank you very much. I finally got the build in a state where it's viable for the end game, and feels very fun and buttery smooth to play. It took quite a while to get here, but now I can say that cold spells aren't completely terrible in POE2. In fact, I would argue that they are quite good. One might refer to them as awesome. A quick disclaimer here, I've moved past low budget into mid budget for the build. I'm probably about 20 divines deep now. However, you can totally pull this off on a low budget now that cast on ailment is fixed, especially since nobody wants cold staves or wands. Everyone's throwing purple fireballs or running around on a giant chicken shooting lightning arrows. That's unless this takes off and becomes popular, in which case I wish you luck in the race to get all of the gear that is currently mega cheap. On to the build guide. This build revolves around using cold infused Ice Nova for clear and frost darts for single target, should we ever need more DPS than we get from Ice Nova and its cohorts. It doesn't happen very often that we need more single target, usually just on bosses. We're also using Cast on Element Comet for some sexy fire comets and additional damage. This is followed up with Cast on Crit Frost Walls for even more damage and sexy visuals. These are what allows us to just spam Ice Nova throughout the maps and kill the rare mobs and everything else, since doing it with just Ice Nova doesn't feel buttery like I want my builds to feel. Also, quick side note on Frost Wall. It says here on the tooltip that it does 80% less damage if destroyed within 0.5 seconds by something other than you. I took that personally. I thought this was a challenge, and it was a challenge that I accepted. Alright. So how the build works, you run around, you spam Ice Nova, things drop from the sky, walls sprout up from the ground, you are a calamity. You unleash enough comets to make the dinosaurs go extinct several times over. Now here are some core mechanics that make the build come together. The crit setup, Malagar's Virtuosity Gloves. Our crit damage bonus is 250%. This means that we can do things like take passive nodes and use support gems that reduce it with no consequences, since it can't be changed from 250%. This is pretty basic, I'm sure most of you know this, but I thought I would put it here in case anyone doesn't know. A disclaimer, if you will. I'd like to fit more crit chance into the build, but don't have the budget or time as of yet to do so, and I honestly don't know that we need it. This crit stacking boosts our damage by quite a lot. It's the core of the Frost Wall strat, and if you're not crit yet, don't worry about trying to get enough spirit for cast on crit yet. Cast on ailment with Comet should be sufficient on a low budget, so long as you have enough freeze buildup and damage to freeze mobs consistently. Moving on, we got Remnants. Infusions are Remnants, and we're also using Mana Remnants for more sustain, or for mana sustain, since this build uses a ton of mana. And moving on, Remnants. Infusions are Remnants, and we're also using Mana Remnants for more mana sustain, since this build uses a ton of mana. We take some Remnant nodes on the passive tree, some Infusion nodes, and then take both Remnant/Infusion nodes in the Stormweaver Ascendancy. The reason for Refracted Infusion is to get fire and lightning infusions easily. And as we start igniting and shocking enemies, they start dropping lightning and fire infusions. And so long as we're burning all of our cold, fire, and lightning infusions, we have a 50% chance to get a random infusion when we pick up one of those infusions. And it leads into the engine of burning tons of infusions all of the time to generate more infusions. It's a cascading effect, if you will. Also, the most important part for infusions make your spells look way cooler than they do without them. Early on, you can take the Arcane and Vigorous Remnant nodes, but once you're a high enough level and have enough defense, you don't need them. The nodes on the passive tree. And then if you go Eldritch Battery and Pseudo Mind Over Matter like I'm doing now, you'll take the Mana one again for more mana recovery, since that's basically your life pool and your spell costs are doubled, and you are picking up an insane number of Remnants. Siphon Elements sort of help sustain infusions as well, but doesn't do a very good job of it until later when you have Cast on Ailment and Cast on Crit, and you're constantly inflicting all of the ailments on all of the mobs all of the time. Until then, it's sort of worth running, but it's not nearly as strong as it is once you really get cooking. The main reason we burn through so many, or the main method through which we burn through so many infusions, is using Spell Cascade. Ice Nova with Spell Cascade uses 3 cold infusions per cast. Comet uses 3 fire infusions per cast. Sadly, Frostwall does not use 3 lightning infusions per cast with Spell Cascade. I couldn't tell you why. Maybe it does, and I just got really, really lucky with my chance for it not to consume an infusion when I cast Frostwall. Spell Cascade gives us a ton of AoE and clear on Ice Nova, as well as good shotgunning if we manage to hit a mob with a main Nova and a Cascade. It also gives us a lot of AoE and clear with Comet and with Frostwall. And if we get enough AoE somehow, we should be able to shotgun with all 3 Novas and all 3 Comets as they drop. I don't know where we would get all of that area of effect, but it is something to think about for the future. I'm not worried too much about needing to shotgun at all, though, because our damage is already insane, and we have all the single target we'll ever need with Frost Dart's machine gun. One last note here, if you go the Croc Frost Lightning Balls route, you'll generate and burn several lightning infusions per second, and generate even more with Siphon Elements, since you're always shocking, freezing, and igniting, and making GGG servers cry. I've been a doubter about Siphon Elements this whole league up until now, but now that I have all 3 elemental damage types and enough element buildup, along with the Remnant nodes on Stormweaver, it all seems to be coming together, and we're burning and generating an absolutely insane number of infusions, as I've mentioned. Freeze. That's the next thing on the list. Freeze is vital in this build. It is probably the most important part of the build. It's your most important defensive layer. It's how you trigger all of your stuff. That's how you kill all of the nasty mobs that are trying to kill you. That's how you get the loot. Freeze is what keeps you alive. Freeze is what generates our infusions to do more damage and freeze more mobs. Freeze is what lets us gun down our nemesis with impunity. Freeze is life. So take all of the freeze build-up nobs that you reasonably can on the tree, get it on your staff, get it everywhere. You want freeze. Single target. That's the next thing on the list. GGG wants us to combo in this game to beat hard enemies, so combo we must. For enemies that just won't die with a few Ice Novas and Comets, we bring the rest of our toolkit. This consists of Elemental Weakness for reduced resistances, Frost Bomb for infusion generation and exposure, which reduces their resistances even further, Flame Wall to add an insane amount of flat lightning and fire damage to our Frost Dart machine gun, Unleash for fat freeze burst with Ice Nova, and then Frost Darts for gunning the poor guy down after they've been cursed, blown up, exposed, and frozen. Also the most important reason, Lightning Infused Flame Wall makes our Frost Darts visuals a solid 10 out of 10. Well done, GGG. Well done. You've given me a grand incentive to combo my skills. Also, again, you can use Sigil of Power instead of Unleash, should you so desire. I just love the burst that Unleash provides. You can use a weapon swap after using Unleash, and it'll hold on to your next weapon if you swap after using Unleash. Just an FYI, same with Sigil of Power. Moving on to defenses. For defenses, I spent most of my time doing Hybrid Evasion and ES. Straight ES might be better. Not really sure. You could also do Hybrid Armor ES. I need to test all of it out. Follow your heart for defenses on the build. My main reason for going Evasion ES early is because, one, it was cheap, and I was poor. And also, we freeze nearly all of the mobs all of the time, letting us continue to map while our ES recharges. We don't have to run away and hide very often, if at all. Occasionally, some random ass white mob will run the gauntlet of ice and fire and manage to stop our ES recharge. And then you have to wait for it to start and then recharge from there. It's really annoying. So with evasion, you have a 30 to whatever % chance, depending on how much evasion you have, for how your budget is. Mine was garbage, so I only had a 35% chance to evade. I couldn't afford better. So there was a 35% chance for that mob to fail miserably after running the gauntlet. Really, I did it out of spite for those stupid white mobs. A fitting end for them to run the gauntlet of ice and fire explosions, only to fail in the end, because I have sick ninja reflexes. Since I wrote that portion of the build guide, talking about hybrid ES and evasion, I've since gone back to Energy Shield and pseudo Mind Over Matter with Eldritch Battery. My mana amount is still kind of low, but we recover so much mana that I think it's better than what I was doing. I do get one shot at times because my max hit is quite a bit lower, but my recovery is crazy good. And then sometimes all of my mana disappears when I'm casting all of my skills, and I haven't yet picked up mana remnants, and so that's another time that I'll sometimes get one shot. But it doesn't happen very often, and I think it's way better this way, especially since I have so much more room to scale. that's the gist of how this build works. That's all the important mechanics, everything you need to know to get it going. Here is the FAQ, the frequently asked questions. I keep running out of mana. Level up your mana remnants. Make sure you have the remnant nodes on the passive tree and your ascendancy. Don't be afraid to run into the frozen mobs to pick up the remnants either. They can't hurt you, usually. On bosses, you'll need to chug the blue Kool-Aid like there's no tomorrow, since mana remnants will only be generated from them once every 2 seconds as you crit. Next question. I keep dying. What do I do? Do better. Just kidding. Get more freeze buildup. Get more defenses. Kill them before they kill you. Easy. Also, do lower tier maps if you need to. If your budget is too low, get some currency going, and then get some better defenses. Get more freeze buildup. All of the things. My damage is ass. What do I do? Mine was too for the first 3 days of beating my head into a brick wall until the build came together. Make sure you invest in a good staff or wand and focus. That is the most important part. Most important mods on a staff or wand and focus are plus to cold spells, cast speed, freeze buildup, and damage as extra fire, lightning, or cold. Mana is also a solid player here. Really, all of the mods are good, but those are the best in my humble opinion. Also, make sure that you always have the highest level skill gems that you can use for your level. Your levels of skill gems is most of your damage. Malagar's gloves will also change your life. That's when the damage really starts coming online for the build. It might start coming online before with Cast on Ailment, but Cast on Ailment was bugged for the first few days of the league, and I didn't really use it because it was terrible. But it's so good now. It is incredible. And you probably will have way more damage than I did, and you probably won't be beating your head into a brick wall trying to make the build work, because Cast on Ailment is incredible. Next question. Can I league start this? Yes, I did it. It was a bit rough, but now that I know what I'm doing, I'd say it's definitely league start viable. Are there better league starters out there? For sure, but it can be done. And also, now that Cast on Ailment isn't bugged, I'd say it's extremely viable. What's the budget? Up until a few hours ago, I was running on hopes and dreams for my budget. Thankfully, nobody wants to run ice spells, at least not yet. That might change. So the gear is incredibly cheap. I spent 60 exalts on my staff, a div on my other staff. The rest of my gear is stuff that I dropped and rolled with currency, probably a total of 3 divines if I add everything up. And if I'm being generous, 5 divines if you include the gloves. With my current Mind Over Matter setup, I'm about 20 divines deep. Another note on items, you don't need my exact items. In fact, feel free to go crazy and do completely different items. Go full energy shield, go hybrid armor, energy shield, get some breach rings, throw on a headhunter. The only required piece of gear are the gloves. Even then, they're not really required. They just help you with your crit damage. And the only required affixes that you need are plus to cold skills or all skills. All skills is almost just as good as plus to cold skills. Cast speed, freeze buildup, and mana. You'll also want 75% to all of your elemental resistances, as much chaos resistance as you can fit in with your budget, and then whatever defenses you want to build from there. Adjust the defensive nodes on the passive tree accordingly with your defenses. Just remember to get defenses, crit, freeze buildup, and remnant nodes on your passive tree. Those are all of the things that you're looking for. And if you go on the left side of the tree instead of the right side, there's plenty of nodes over there as well for the things that you want. Honorable mentions for build variations. I'll do a nice short clip of each one of these. Ice Nova Frostbolts, my beloved. A nice carryover from the original Path of Exile. You put Frostbolt and Cast on Ailment instead of Comet. You swap Astral Projection and Ice Nova for Spell Echo, and then you traverse the map holding down the Ice Nova button and occasionally pressing your Curse and / or Frost Bomb on rare mobs. Also snapping mobs on occasion for those sweet, sweet infusions. And then if you have Cast on Crit, you can also slot in something else to burn even more infusions, like Frost Wall or Ball Lightning or Comet. There's a lot of options. This one mostly just burns cold infusions though, so you will have to snap on occasion to sustain all of your infusions. But it is cool. It feels awesome. I tested it in Breach. Everything around you is constantly frozen to dead. I don't think it's as good as what I'm doing now, but it does get an honorable mention. Another FYI, adding mobility support into Ice Nova is a huge quality of life for this. Also, boots that have reduced movement speed penalty from using skills while moving. You can get that as a desecrated mod, and you can also sock it to Pharaoh's Runes of Grace. to get a total of anywhere from 30 to 34% reduced movement speed penalty from using skills while moving. Quite good. The next one on my list is Cock Frost Ball Lightning. Yes, Cock Frost Ball Lightning. You swap Comet and a support out for Frost Wall and Ball Lightning to use up all those juicy fire and lightning infusions. You can do this with just cast on ailment. You just make sure that you have Frost Wall and Ball Lightning both in cast on ailment. If you're doing cast on ailment and cast on crit, then you put Frost Wall in one and Ball Lightning in the other. I recommend Frost Wall and cast on crit because cast on crit doesn't trigger as often as cast on ailment, and Frost Wall only has 3 charges, so if you are casting more than you are regenerating charges, it's not doing anything for you. With this, you generate a truly insane number of infusions and burn through all of them. You also drop your frames by 99%, and it's probably the coolest looking combo in the game. Also, GGG servers will cry out in pain. And that's about it. That's all I got for the build guide. If you have any questions, as always, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Send me a message in game. Send me a message on Discord. Pop into my Twitch chat. Whatever you want to do. There are multiple ways to contact me. If you find any cool tech, again, I'd love to know. And I'll catch you next time.